Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 83 of Podcast vs. Enemies, a Destiny Massive Breakdown show. My name is Sinkabir, and I am joined, as always, by my Warlock and Hunter counterparts, Impetus and Court. It's good to be back this week after being away from my brother's wedding. Court, how have you been? What have you been up to this week?
Hello, Saint Impetus. Yeah, I'm doing well. Hope you guys are well as well. In Destiny, I have gilded number 10, my Conqueror seal. Nice, well, not really nice selection of strikes this season, but certainly testing those builds out. Finished off the Master Crota with the first encounter. We didn't do the first week because that was when the servers were having some problems, and repeated it a few times on our other characters to get the rest of the adept loot. Over on my side of things, wrote up a little behind-the-scenes blog post on my coffee for those that are interested in how the damage stacking infographic was made. And outside of Destiny, I've been spending a lot of time playing Stardew Valley. Many hours. Currently about to head into Winter Year 1, and I've also been replaying Uncharted 4 on the PC. Impetus, what have you been up to?
Man, I really want to get back into Stardew. That was a great game. Love that game so much. I might try it actually with mods. It's been a while. You got me thinking about Stardew now, but no.
Go for it.
Dude, oh no. I've got so much stuff I want to play. I have been playing this past week. Of course, Master Crota with Court and the rest of our team here did get all of that Adept/challenge stuff knocked out of the way. Got a nice Adept Swordbreaker for PvP, a little threat detector opening shot. So already started working on enhancing those perks. If I need a lightweight shotgun, I'll always have that there. That's pretty nice. And then I've been running those legend haunted lost sectors like my life depends on it, so that I can start getting those black mementos to drop. We'll see how long that takes. I haven't gotten the first one to unlock, but I'm on the final step to get it from that special triumph. So working on that then. Saint, how about yourself? What have you been up to?
Yeah, I was out of town for pretty much, like 4 or 5 days last week traveling, but since I've gotten back, it's been a lot of GMs, been a little bit of haunted lost sectors as well, been helping some friends kill their titles. I think this is number maybe 7 for me. There's definitely a couple seasons where I missed some weeks just traveling or busy with work or whatever it was, and you just miss a GM, and that's about it. You just never killed it. But I think I just hit number 7. I've also been just having a lot of fun with the whole Banner of War melee build. Shout out to Deck and Nems and Tillbones for putting up with my kind of absolute maniac plays as I just grappling hook myself into a barrier champion. And most of the time, everything dies. Sometimes you die. And it's just kind of a nice, fun dice roll to mix things up in the GMs. Also, as a reminder, you can find the strain builds that I've talked about for GMs this season, as well as builds for Hunters and Warlocks that Court and Impetus have talked about in our builds forum within that Massive Breakdowns Discord server. So if you're trying to refresh on stuff we've talked about from the past few weeks of season or whatever, be sure to go check that out. Also been playing through my 9 matches of comp each week, 3 per character to get those Mercurial Overreach drops. Unfortunately, all I'm getting is Mulligan, which is not exactly what I'm looking for, but we press on. And yeah, just trying to get some super black shaders, man. Who can deny that is just an absolutely beautiful looking memento?
That's amazing.
All right, who do we have to thank before we jump into the meat of the episode here, episode 83?
Yeah, just the usual crew, of course, the folks going above and beyond in their support to keep our show running each and every week. Those are the sponsors, of course. So without further ado, thank you to A Modern Viking, Askian Monk, Bryce Aroni, Deacon, I'm K Rose, Moonlight, and This Moment. Thank you so much, fellas, for your support. That means the world to us. And you, of course, our dear listeners, can send us all kinds of feedback directly to any of our socials or via the Destiny Massive Breakdowns Discord server. All kinds of feedback help with the trajectory of the podcast and how we present and break down builds, activities, and so much more in the PvE sandbox for all kinds of Destiny players. We also want to extend a special thanks and appreciation to everyone that supports PvE, whether that's downloading and listening, discussing it on social media in our Discord server, or supporting us via Patreon. Speaking of Patreon, if you'd like to support the show monetarily, please visit DestinyMassiveBreakdowns.com and click on the link to Patreon. You'll get access to members-only channels in Discord, behind-the-scenes content like an episode preview, input on the future of the show, and access to the legendary annual merch drop. Court, what are we talking about today?
Yeah, we've got some quick TWID/Bungie highlights for you this week. A nice little section about upcoming exotic armor changes preview, even though that wasn't really intended from Bungie. So we've got a nice little preview of that. And then I suppose the bulk of this episode will be the Festival of the Lost 2023 weapons. Some interesting roles, and we'll get onto that later in the show. For some housekeeping and podcast updates, obviously Saint wasn't here last week, so I'll pass you back to Saint to give a little kind of recommendations for survivability.
Yeah, Titans have no shortage of really tanky builds. It's kind of part of the Titan fantasy, and you got a lot of ways to spec into that. I know that this whole season has been about Banner of War and Woven Mail. Basically, Banner of War Into the Fray is kind of the healing plus DR combo that you're getting from Woven Mail. So that's kind of the recent one, but let's not forget about Abeyant Leap with Drinker's Lash, Into the Fray, suspending grenades, pretty much 100% uptime on Woven Mail. A little bit less risky than that melee focus build, as you can proc pretty much any part of this build from a good 12 meters away. You're not having to get right up close and personal with those enemies. We've also got some classic examples on our Solar Titan, Laura Splendor. I mean, you get a little too much damage on you, you automatically start healing. I don't know what could be better for just an auto health regen button as soon as things start to get risky. Laura's been nerfed, reworked a little bit, but it's still incredibly strong and still really nice for just an automatic, no thought healing build that you've got going for yourself. If you want some team survivability, a little bit supporting yourself and supporting the teammates, you've got something like Phoenix Cradle, which is allowing your sunspots to last longer. You're allowing your teammates to benefit from this. I know a few times on some really tense encounters, like a day one raid encounters, such as Golgoroth, everybody's in the pit. There's a lot of things attacking you, that this came in super clutch, as I could super and not only deal a little bit of damage to the boss and clear out some enemies, but you're also healing all of your teammates at the same time. Incredibly strong. Hollowfire Hearts is a little bit, interesting from the healing standpoint with the sunspots. You can also have really, really high uptime on healing grenades in this class. Hoyle also does some stuff for your grenade uptime, but Hollowfire Heart is one that is not dependent on you dealing damage or anything like that. You just have really high uptime on your healing grenades, which you could use to heal your teammates. And lastly, for Titan survivability stuff, can't cap off this without mentioning Stronghold gauntlets with a sword. The way that Stronghold basically grants restoration on your damage block, you're already blocking with a sword, you're already getting DR. You can even combo this with Lament to heal yourself on top of the restoration that you're getting, which is just absolutely ridiculous. There's some ways to stack these things together, obviously using Stronghold with Strand build, maybe in place of your Synthos, giving some more DR there rather than some more suspend or just generally incredibly strong stuff there. All right, I think that's about all I got.
It's a good list.
Yeah, plenty of tanky stuff going on there.
Very cool. Very good. All right, so we have a little announcement to share this week. So in 2 weeks' time, so that'll be episode 85. That'll be November 7th, kind of the normal scheduled date for the recording, for the episode to come out. We'll be joined by a special guest from the Destiny Science community, and that is Mr. Rock DC, the very one from Reddit. So we'll be covering another PvE university topic on that episode. We'll be covering damage and DPS. So Rock is joining us to give us sort of detailed breakdown of all things DPS, including terminology definitions, how DPS metrics are measured, and of course highlighting his work on the damage generator spreadsheet, which you can find on the Destiny spreadsheets link tree. Looking real forward to this one. Joining the three of us, obviously, so be nice, bulky episode, lots to talk about. If you're interested in damage and DPS, make sure to check out that one. We'll also be kind of doing a little kind of posts for patrons if they want to send any quick questions to Rock just for the episode, so patrons can hear about that very shortly. We'll get a post up on their channel very soon. All right, Impetus, what kind of highlights have been hearing from Bungie this week?
Yeah, so in the 1019 TWID, we did, of course, get kind of our standard procedure. Here's what's leaving at the end of Season 22 as it pertains to our Nightfall and Trials of Osiris weapons. For Nightfall, we've got Buzzard, which at the time of this episode has already left the pool for the Adept variant. These are pertaining to the Adept variants, I should say. The non-Adept versions of these weapons will still be focusable in the Legacy focusing section of their relevant vendors. We have not heard about the replacements yet soon. So, Nightfall, Buzzard, and the Swarm. The Swarm Adept, that final week will be 1024. Over on Trials of Osiris, the Immortals final week will be 1024, and Astral Horizon, that final week will be 11/7. And again, non-adept versions still going to be focusable. Adepts will become unobtainable at the end of Season 22. We don't know what's coming into the pool for the Nightfall and Trials of Osiris weapons yet for next season. But yeah, if you are waiting around for a good weapon to go chase in terms of Nightfall, we, of course, would probably want to push you towards Warden's Law, which we talked about in episode 77, and the Loaded Question Fusion Rifle, which is a very excellent damage option that I'm sure we'll be talking about with Rock when he comes to join us on the show in a few weeks' time. So those will still be available, I believe, over the course of this season. I hope I'm right in saying that. Maybe some of them have already gone out for this season, but they'll definitely be around next season, and those two weapons, Warden's Law and Loaded Question, are kind of the best as we know right now. Another thing that they talked about, a long requested change that is finally coming to happen, Sparrows. All legendary and exotic Sparrows will have 2 speed selection options moving forward, and this is coming in Season 23. The first option will match the speed of Always On Time, which has been for a while now, multiple years, just the best Sparrow. It's faster, it has higher health, it has a very slight chance to lower enemy aggression, and also better fuel economy, and also better side-to-side boost. Just, again, best all around. So now all legendary and exotic Sparrows will have the option to match Always On Time speed, or the second option, they can match the current speed of that legendary or exotic Sparrow to then gain a little bit better handling and speed control if that's what you want. So what Bungie, of course, will believe is that upon login, most players will default to the fastest option. That will set the speed update to 190. And then on top of that, legendary and exotic Sparrows will also move from 100 to 150 health to be more durable, to get a little bit closer to a Always On Time's health pool. Always On Time will still retain all of the benefits I mentioned earlier, better fuel economy, lowered enemy aggression, and better side-to-side boost, but it will no longer also be the fastest Sparrow. So hopefully that allows for a little bit more player choice in the Sparrows that you guys want to run. I know there's plenty of them that drop from various triumphs that most of us don't run because they're not quite as fast as Always On Time, and we haven't gotten another Sparrow since then that's matched it. But it's, again, coming in Season 23, speed will no longer be a sacrifice for you in your fashion options. So nice little change there. You guys have any Sparrows that you've kind of been looking at that you just haven't run because you know they're not as fast as Always On Time? Always On Time isn't a looker, so it's always been, I think, a function over form kind of a pick for a lot of players. You have any ones that you like?
There's I think is it from King's Fall? It's the one that's got like a a taken effect. The exhaust is a taken effect. It might be from King's Fall, it might be from somewhere else, but anything that's like taken, or I think Ghosts of the Deep had a nice sparrow as well. This season we had a nice sparrow from doing the for doing the what you call it.
Seasonal activity?
Yeah. So yeah, there are definitely some nice sparrows. So I will probably day one go through my list of acquired sparrows and be like, okay, which ones could I now replace always on time? Because yeah, definitely a function over form sparrow.
What is the one? So the micro mini, I'm sure we're going to see a ton of little micro minis now that'll be quite as fast and a little bit stronger here. What other ones do we have? Let's see.
Is there not one where it's like a water dinghy, just a big inflatable ring? It's like the mini
from the summer activity, right?
Yeah, it's like the micro sparrow, but it's literally just a big rubber water ring. Like a bumper cart, I suppose.
Yeah. There's the train one, the locomotive one from, I think, the Dawning. That was a pretty popular one. That's got the little smokestack that blows out a little smoke. I like that a lot. Yeah, I don't know. I don't even know if I have that one unlocked, but I've definitely seen it around before and being like, that's cool. It's nowhere near as fast as Always on Time.
Yeah. Saint, you got any favorites?
There are a couple that come to mind for me. I think it's Any Other Sky is the one that originally came from the Beyond Light DLC. I really like that one. But above anything else for me, it's got to be the Quadricycle, aka the homage to Mario Kart. It's like the micro mini, but even better. I just absolutely love that thing and all the details that they put in it, like the little ghost turtle shells that will pop out behind you. Just a ton of fun.
Do the wheels actually touch the ground on that one?
No.
No? All right. Well,
I don't think so.
Can't have everything.
I think they're mostly for effect.
Gotcha. That's a good one.
Especially for this season, we have the broom swept night, which is the broom one.
Also absolute classic.
Yeah. The one I was thinking of, the pure Taken one, is Harbinger's Echo, and that's from all the way back in Forsaken.
Oh, I need to unlock that still. Yeah. Yeah.
It's just classic.
Is that the one that
Taken
came from the Dreaming City?
Yes, yeah.
Oh, dude, that took me so long.
Yeah, that's
to get that damn sparrow.
Your classic kind of cosmetic drop for having to do
chase.
XYZ ABC. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So it sounds like it's a good change. I think we're all in agreement. Pretty good change, at least. I mean, Always on Time, of course, I think will still be the play for like solo dungeon runs, of course. Obviously, for that one infamous section in Grasp of Avarice, probably going to want to have that extra or that lowered enemy aggression, little side-to-side boost as you're racing through the diffusals. But I think for all the other activities, of course, where it matters, seasonal activities, stuff like that, you can be a little fashionable, a little personable. All right, we did get a preview to the preview unintentionally here with the changes. Saying what exotic armor is getting tweaked in season 23 that we weren't supposed to know about?
There's actually quite a few, and they kind of they had mentioned that some exotic changes were coming, and I think that only one of these was actually defined before this all hit the game. So it's like we kind of knew this was coming, and then we got basically the text in game was leaked by Bungie themselves. Not even leaked. They just the text was updated too early. First up, we got the Stomp E's, aka the Stomp D's. This is going to be getting a kind of like a walk back of some nerfs that it got a while back. These things have still remained relatively popular, but not nearly to the degree that they were prior to their original big sweeping set of nerfs. When we are looking at their effects, you've got increased sprint speed, about 6.5%, increased slide distance, about a 33%, and increased jump height, more detailed bonuses, kind of for all the different ones we won't get into. The added effects that we're getting here is damage resistance against combatants while airborne is what we saw in its preview text that was updated this week. Not exactly a lot of details on there, but definitely interesting. And they will be removing the class ability requirement for the functionality. So before you would need your class ability to be charged, aka your dodge, in order to get the bonuses. And then it just would not have any effect, basically, if you did not have your dodge up. So big walk back on the nerf. This is not really a PvE exotic, but it is a nice thing to have if you are going through some jumping puzzles, you're doing some speed runs, and you want to get that extra little bit of height on your shatter skate or just fly through, smashing your head into the ceiling. There's a couple things of note here. Number one, the Manticore with its catalyst gives 50% DR for 5 seconds after scoring an airborne kill. Additional hits refresh the duration, and dealing damage while airborne refills 3 ammo. There's about a half-second cooldown between the activations on that. This stacks with other DR sources like Woven Mail, Void Overshield, etc. You can listen to previous episode 82 for more details on that, but definitely really interesting kind of change here, especially because usually being in the air in PvE is a big risk, and you try to do it for as short a period as you possibly can, and then get back on the ground, i.e. a grapple melee or something like that. Next up, we have the Celestial Nighthawk. Your classic effects are 500% increased damage to Golden Gun. You just get that single Golden Gun shot. 37% more damage compared to 3 precision hits with a marksman version of Golden Gun. And scoring a Golden Gun kill will refund about a third of your super energy and will explode the enemy that you kill, dealing an AoE explosion damage. The added effect coming next season is precision kills grant super energy. No extra details given on this. This is something that's really interesting and kind of an idea that we've talked about a little bit more, where there's these super exotics that have no neutral game. And now more and more we are seeing super exotics that do have a little bit of impact on your neutral game and the overall flow, rather than, your Curus where you activate your super, you get a big buff, and then it's over. Now we have Pyro Gale that is affecting your Consecration as well as your Burning Maul super. And now we have Celestial Nighthawk, which is affecting your super and apparently giving you a little extra energy while you're out of super. Court, I know you have some notes here on potential builds. What's the vibe on the buff to Celestial Nighthawk?
Yeah, so this and Shards, which we'll talk about in a second, have got me very intrigued because, to your point about they're adding passive effects to the super exotics, which is, the three of us, we all agreed that's kind of what we wanted when it comes to these super exotics. I am not a big fan of any of the super exotics, barring one, and that is Starter Scales. But that gives a passive effect anyway. But yes, so this one, Celestial Nighthawk, is really get your precision game on. So we're talking bows, scouts, hand cannons, snipers, LFRs. But if you're comfortable with other weapons to land those final precision blows, then go for it. So when I was writing out the script this week's episode, I was immediately thought of Wishender, Wicked Implement. We mentioned that a few episodes ago. It's obviously got its recent buff. Arbalist, even DMT in the action. And special shout out to Bad Juju, which has its own version of Thresh. And speaking of which, we don't normally recommend Thresh when we do our weapon breakdowns, but you could pair with that if you've got a weapon, a hand cannon, a sniper, or a scout or a bow that's got Thresh in the background. You want to dust off. A little kind of rabbit hole detail here in regards to Thresh. So most weapon kills grant 1% super on weapon kill with Thresh, and it's 1.33% if enhanced. Fusion rifles, glaives, and snipers grant 1.5% or 2% if enhanced. Just as a reminder, we talked about this many episodes ago. So this is on top of the weapons granting passive super energy on kills, hits, and assists. Obviously, primaries provide the most super regen, then specials, then heavies, the least. High rate of fire and impact weapons provide the most super regen, and obviously higher tier combatants like champions, mini bosses, and bosses provide the most amount of super regen. So You can really pair a lot of that together to get your super back faster, to then use your golden gun, get a kill, 33%. Depending on how much super regen you can get and how much stacking is going on in here, might be some really interesting fast golden gun builds here. I've got a little section here in regards to sort of recent Thresh weapons, the weapons that roll Thresh, that can do precision damage. So in column 3, we've got Michael's Reverence, the sidearm from Ron. We've got Rufus's Fury, again from Ron, that's the auto rifle. And in column 4, we've got Kept Confidence, which is Season 22's hand cannon. Randy's Throwing Knife, which is the scout rifle from Crucible. Whistler's Whim, which is the bow from Trials. Fel Taradiddle, which is the bow from Witch Queen, and Submission, which is the SMG from Vow of the Disciple. So very interesting. In terms of theoreticals, this may be a very interesting super exotic here. You guys got any more kind of comments on Celestial Nighthawk? Anything else I may have missed out?
It's got to be Wish Ender. I mean, that thing just generates unfair amounts of super energy, and really probably should get walked back a little bit or tuned, because
it might with this.
Well, yeah. Now I can't remember, Court, and I don't know if you know this off the top of your head. The Golden Gun supers, are those tier 3? Is that the category of super that they're in right now in terms of their cooldown? I think they're in the same category. I know that, at least. I can't remember if it's...
So this is something I've recently put up on my spreadsheet, because it is on the data compendium, or most of it is, but in terms of a curated place to see all of it, I've got a rudimental graphic up here, and yes, it's tier 2 for both golden guns. That's
okay.
It's the second lowest, but it's currently all supers are not. It's the second lowest, but the lowest doesn't have any supers, so technically speaking, it's the lowest now, and that's 9 minutes and 16 seconds, 553 seconds base cooldown at tier 3 intellect. So it's quite a slow cooldown. It shares it with Arc Staff, Silk Strike, Fist of Havoc, Thunder Crash, Hammer Soul, Sentinel Shield, Glacial Quake, Blade Fury, Storm Trance, Daybreak, Nova Warp, and Winter's Wrath, just to put it into perspective.
Yeah, I mean, gosh, there's so many supers in that tier. Like, I think the tiers were an interesting idea, but now that we have exotics coming out that are going to be changing, or at least that are changing to grant super energy, I feel like the tiers are mattering less and less, especially now that the lowest tier doesn't even have any supers in it. I get it was a nice starting point to kind of for balancing purposes, but yeah. I don't want to get my hopes up too much, because this could be a really fun combo for a few weeks, and then something gets adjusted, either celestial, or maybe it's a weapon that's generating too much super energy. Maybe both get hit. We'll talk about shards next, but it's cool. I just hope that it doesn't come out too crazy, because it's not going to be fun when they hit it with a Nerf hammer afterwards. But I'm cautiously excited.
Speaking of shards of Galanor, which is our other super exotic, so Blade Barrage hits and kills refunds super energy up to 50%. The refund amount depends on the kills and the hits, as well as the enemy rank. They are adding the effect where throwing knife kills grant super energy, and again, no details really given here, because we're just working off the text description. So again, I've got a nice little kind of a few builds here to consider, to take in mind for season 23. So hunters do have plenty of choice when it comes to throwing knives. We've got 4. So Knife Trick for the 3 knives that apply 20 or 30 with Ashe's Scorch per hit. Lightweight for a weaker knife that grants Radiant for 10 seconds on precision hit. Proximity Explosive for potential group kills. And Weighted for the harder hitting knife that fully recharges your class ability, and Scorched enemies ignite on hit. So you could synergize this with the knife kill grants 4 out of the 6 charges required for Gunpowder Gamble's and improvised explosive. Adds more if the Scorch or Ignition kills other combatants. and the super kill grants an immediate charge. So if you use your shards, your blade barrage, you'll get that gunpowder gamble, providing it's within the cooldown parameter. And of course, instant unstoppable synergy here. If you're using this in GMs or any strikes that have got unstoppables, very easy to synergize that with the improvised explosive. Got this in all bold. Knock him down, fully recharges his knife if it kills while you are radiant, which is probably it's the perfect synergy with this type of exotic. So throwing knife kills, grant super energy. You get that kill while you're radiant. From knock him down, you'll get that knife back. You just keep cycling that. Knock him down also improves blade barrage, so firing 3 additional knives per fan. Blade barrage normally releases 2 fans of 7 homing knives each, totaling 14. Knock him down makes this 10 knives each, totaling 20. Some other notes here. Ember of Ashes, obviously, for more Scorch for the knife trick. Ember of Beams, Blade Barrage tracks a lot better. It sure does when you've got that on. Ember of Searing, melee energy on scorched enemy kills if you don't go down the knock 'em down route. And finally, we've got Ember of Torches. Knife hit makes you and nearby allies within 8 meters radiant for 8 seconds, which then you can synergize with Benevolence for the increased grenade melee and class regen for 6 seconds on ally buff application. And of course, Solace for longer radiant, and Empyrean for solar kills extend radiant. So there's like quite a rabbit hole of synergy kind of loops, gameplay loops here when it comes to Shards of Galanor. In terms of its tiering, it's tier 4, which is the for hunters, it's the highest tier. Obviously, Ward of Dom and Well of Radiance are at tier 5. That's the fastest cooldown. But for us hunters, Blade Barrage sits with Deadfall Tether and Silence and Squall. And for Warlocks, they have Chaos Reach in this tier. So that's 7 minutes, 34 seconds, 455 seconds at tier 3 Intellect. So yeah, another very possibly might be a little bit of a nightmare in terms of balancing super energy gains, just like Celestial Nighthawk. We'll obviously see how that all plays out in practice. But this one's the most, out of the 4 anyway, for hunters that they've revealed. This one was the most intriguing in terms of changes, just with the amount of gameplay loops and synergy that you can build into this. So Saint, Impetus, you guys got any comments for Shards?
Yeah, I think the big one here will be, can you get 2 Blade Barrages off in a damage phase, right? Trying to think of damage cycles where that would matter, because I think in the context of maybe a Grandmaster Nightfall, this would be really great to just have a lot of supers, but it's not going to change raid damage rotations for hunters because of your already great super exotic that you love so much, Court. Star Eaters, I think, is still going to be probably the superior option, unless landing all of your Blade Barrage hits, getting that super energy back up to 50%, then having a particular weapon giving you super energy. Yeah, but also having enemies around to do throwing knife kills? I don't think it, probably wouldn't be possible.
To go on Impetus's point there, I feel like the Nighthawks and Shards, buffs that they're getting here are awesome, but they definitely seem kind of more catered towards non-strictly DPS phases, right? So maybe in like a GM type of scenario or another strike scenario, whatever mission, anything like that, where I'm not settling in for specific GM phases or damage phases, I should say. I just want my super up more often. These both sound awesome, and I think that is where they'll shine more in kind of just more general content versus like a raid scenario. Because, like you said, them fishy legs, they allow you to deal so much damage. And they're also pretty good for their passive effect within an actual DPS phase that I think they'll remain the DPS king, but these guys will work their way up there a little bit in terms of just general viability running any kind of mission or anything like that, which is great to see.
Yeah, Star Eater skills are very strong. Again, it's not the scope of this episode, but the high-level passive ability of Starter Scales is Orb of Power grant an additional 2% super energy on top of what you'd already get from an Orb of Power pickup, which is quite large. Like, if you've got a lot of orbs being created by our team, if you've got a court running a arc build in a GM and you're using starter scales, even though I wouldn't suggest running starter scales in a GM because it's not the right environment for it, but go off if you want to use it, you can get your super back really fast that way. But I don't anticipate Celestial and Shards to be like game breaking in terms of damage strats, and we'll talk about damage and DPS with Rock in the upcoming episode. But yeah. Finally, for hunters anyway, again, we've only got 4 for hunters, and warlocks and titans only have one of which we already knew for titans. But just as a reminder, Bungie did come out and say this isn't the full list. So expect more changes, especially for warlocks and titans. But for hunters, we've got Mechaneer's Trick Sleeves. Current effects passively grants the following. This is all to do with sidearms, so plus 100 handling, plus 100 reload speed to sidearms, and plus 50 AE to sidearms. Upon readying a sidearm while at critical health, so that's your health portion of your HP bar. Impetus and I obviously talked about that last episode, so if you want to revisit that, when the game refers to critical health, they're talking about the non-shield health bar. So when it goes red, essentially, it's your health bar without any shields. And you get 100%, so double damage increased sidearm damage until no longer at critical health. They are adding the effect where sidearm kills while this effect is active, refreshes the duration, and refills the magazine, which is something. I mean, we don't talk about sidearms a lot in this podcast. We were kind of memeing a little bit last year with a certain arc jolting sidearm.
Brigands?
Yes.
Icos SMG, actually, is what you guys are talking about.
Well, this doesn't synergize with Mechaneer's Trick Sleeves, Impetus. Come on now.
Doesn't need to.
But in terms of proper synergy, the first thing that came to my mind when I was typing this up was Forerunner, which already hits like a truck. So double damage buff may be very useful against champions if we ever get anti-barrier sidearm back, or if you're just utilizing Radiant for barrier champions. So that was... oh boy, that may be a very interesting pick, especially refilling the magazine every time. I'm assuming there'll be some like cooldown in terms of refilling the magazine. For the duration, though, I kind of anticipate it's going to be refresh every time you get a kill. So Forerunner.
What is the duration on that?
It's so the duration for Mechaneer's Trick Sleeves. The effect it lasts until you're no longer at critical health. So
I wonder what it will be when you refresh it, like how long it'll give you.
Yeah, we don't know the timer here. So right now it's you don't really have a timer. It's based on if you're no longer in the critical health state, you then get that 100% damage increase removed from you. It's only while you're in that state. So you're kind of a glass cannon build at this point. But presuming, I wouldn't anticipate it'll be a big refresh, and it'll probably max out at 5 seconds or something like that. But yeah, sidearm kills while this effect is active, refreshes the duration, and refills the mag. Which is why, again, for a runner, probably going to be a big kind of draw for this. I also mentioned Devil's Ruin here. The laser could sustain the buff very easily, and Trespasser, which we haven't talked about it since it came out 50 months ago during season 17 Haunties. But again, it's another sidearm that could easily sustain the damage buff. So again, this is a very interesting one. If you really love sidearms, maybe a thing to go towards. I mean, I keep hyping up Forerunner. I think because Forerunner is such a a great exotic against champions. We discussed this several episodes, especially with the Root of Nightmares master challenges. When we were going through it, Impetus, we had someone on our team using Forerunner, and it was wrecking the champions. So I'm just thinking, probably won't maybe use Mechaneer's Trick Sleeves, or if you want to swap off it, back to starter scales for your damage setup. But yeah, this may really ruin champions' days, at least barriers.
Well, I mean, Devil's Ruin has Unstop functionality built into the laser beam, and not only that, but the stat benefits of Mechaneers actually will benefit Devil's Ruin tremendously. It has a handling of 39 and a reload speed of 15, so shooting those all the way up to 100 will be incredibly noticeable. Yeah, and Trespasser's not great either. Forerunner's just got cracked out stats, so it's not. I don't think you're going to feel the difference between a 95 reload and a 100 reload, but the handling will of course be welcome. Devil's Ruin and Trespasser, though, are of course much lower because they are primary sidearms. Yeah, I'll probably give Devil's Ruin a try with the Mechaneers and just see how that feels. Well, I know it'll feel better, but whether or not it feels worth it, especially if I'm at critical health consistently, could be being at critical health around unstoppable champions is not the play. Very much
not ideal,
not fun. So, yeah, maybe it'll finally be a worthwhile trade-off, but very exciting nonetheless to at least play around with it.
Yeah. Another thing I'm thinking about Devil's Ruin is the fact that you can shoot the beam off as long as there's a single round in the magazine.
Yep.
Oh,
so you could activate it, use the regular bullets to get a few low level kills, and then hit the full on beam, right?
And if you kill with the beam, that'll refill the magazine, right?
Should do,
if you're using Mechaneers,
dude. Yeah.
And the beam's pretty powerful as it is. It's not hugely powerful. It's not a Forerunner, but it does do damage, and then doing double damage on top of that, and then just keep refreshing it for the buff, for the trigger. Get the laser beam back. I'm looking at Rat King. It doesn't obviously have any hugely powerful potency. It's more of a for reloading. You get that invis. I don't think this would trigger the invis when you refill the mag. That's a different kind of trigger. The Vermin trait for Rat King is an explicit reload rather than a refresh, so I don't think that would affect it. Maybe it will, but an educated guess, I would say it's not going to work. But Rat King, in terms of if you want to use it for utility, get out of a really hot spot when it comes to any champion. Rat King doesn't have anything synergistic or intrinsic with it unless you're using a subclass buff, but being able to just quickly get in there, reloads, and get that invis up and get out of that engagement. Rat King's there as well, but yeah, definitely Forerunner, Devil's Ruin, and Trespasser are the ones that I was certainly thinking of when I thought of the newly added effect that we'll see in Season 23.
Yeah, definitely going to be some funny stuff going on in the Crucible with this. I can only imagine seeing people go on a 2-tap spree.
So for PvP, it's 35% for Mechaneer's damage buff. I haven't listed it in the script, obviously, because it's we're just focusing on the PvE aspect. But yeah, 35%, which is still it's a massive
too
buff.
much.
Yeah,
it's too much.
Yeah.
Presumably, they're not going to change it, but for now, it's 35%.
All right. Enough sidearm talk. Okay, that's
Thank you.
Plenty of sidearm talk for at least 3 episodes. The one Titan exotic that we've got on the list here is Syntheseps. Classic effects here are when you have 3 or more enemies within 15 meters, aka when you are surrounded, you gain 50% increase to super damage, 50% increase to glaive melee, and 200% double damage to regular melee. The new effect is going to remove, or the new update is going to remove the melee lunge distance you also got from Syntheseps, but it's going to replace that with what sounds like Threat Detector, which not a typo, and for sure intentional. A little bit surprised, but grants handling and reload speed bonuses while you are surrounded by enemies. The glaive melee nerfs that we saw a few seasons ago are also being rolled back a little bit. No explicit details on that yet, but seemingly Syntheseps are eating good. As far as PvE goes, I would absolutely say that the removal of the lunge distance and the addition of the threat detector effect is absolutely a buff. By all means, that is a buff in PvE. Other builds coming up down the line, Banner of War obviously plays right into this. A little Glaive, Banner of War, Syntheseps action coming on. We've got exotic Glaive reworks coming up next season. Maybe a little mini bubble, Gumdrop Bubble, Glaive, Syntheseps action. Who knows? I'm definitely excited though. Banner of War, Glaive, Syntheseps is creeping up in interest for this upcoming season. Really looking forward to that.
Yeah.
We also, go ahead.
I was just going to say about threat detector. So we obviously recommend threat detector a lot for many weapons because it is such a workhorse of a perk. We don't know if this is going to be exactly like threat detector, but just to give some stats, it is a 1/2 stacks type of perk. So if you're within 15 meters of 1 or 2 enemies, so at 1 stack. For 1 enemy, it's 15 stability, 18 reload, 25 handling, and 10% handling animation multiplier. And if it's 2, it's 40 stability, 60 reload, 60. It goes from 18 to 60, and 25 to 100 handling, and a 19% handling animation. It is one of the most solid of perks in the game. So again, we're not suggesting it's going to be exactly like threat detector, but if you've got a weapon that's got threat detector already, you probably don't need this.
Yeah, and the important distinction here is that Syntheseps requires 3+ enemies within 15 meters. Threat detector, of course, has 1 to 2 enemies to proc the varying levels here. So it'll be a stricter version of that, but with the amount of damage increases that you get from Synthos, I don't think we'll see full-on matching levels of threat detector. It'll probably be small stat bumps to your weapons, which I'm sure will still be noticeable. But again, the kinds of weapons you want to use up close with that many enemies around, no rockets, no nothing crazy like that. Probably swords actually swords don't have reload speed. What am I talking about? I'm thinking more shotguns will be really good there. Glaives, certainly, they have pretty atrocious reload speed. That will be nice. You could do trace rifles up close, I'm thinking.
Yeah, my mind definitely went to when I'm trying to get my 1-2 punch into a melee, I'm just going to be able to equip and aim down sights with my shotgun even faster.
Yep.
Which I had been thinking about how that Syntheseps strand build should be a little bit stronger recently. We really could just pump those numbers up a little bit, give that handling just absolutely maxed out on your shotgun.
I looked up if we have any glaives with threat detector, and we do, and it is the Enigma, our first glaive. But in terms of any others, we don't.
Fusion rifles. Fusion rifles are going to be great, actually, now that I think about it. We just got the Eremite, of course, a high impact, has terrible reload, not great handling. But you'll be able to swap to that a lot faster. Fusion rifles and glaives I think are going to be clear winners here. I mean, machine guns, you can probably have those out pretty much all the time, just due to their nature here. Grenade launchers, not... I don't know, man. I know that they've decreased the amount of damage that you can inflict on yourself when firing, but I probably still wouldn't recommend that. I don't know.
Yeah, probably just wave frames, right?
Yeah. Still, though, Syntheseps, man. So good. I've got 2 different Titan builds for it. Don't regret it at all. Oh my goodness. All right, let's get on to our one Warlock one here. It's funny, we were talking about this one a few weeks ago and mentioned how it felt kind of like the precursor to some of the restoration and cure keywords that we have. And then they went ahead and said, you know what? Yeah, you're right. It is the precursor. It's also going to be the cursor, just straight up cursor. So Karnstein armlets, they have removed the old functionality where you would get 50 health points and then heal for 30 health points per second for 8 seconds on a melee kill. The new functionality, melee kills and finishers, grant cure and restoration. So we now have just straight up Solar 3.0 synergy for Karnstein. Again, no details on the stacks. Theoretically, it could be like Assassin's Cow, where the higher the combatant type, the higher the stacks or the duration of cure and restoration. I'm really crossing my fingers for that. Please, please, please. As a reminder, the current cure/restoration values in PvE. Cure is 60 HP per stack. Restoration, 1 stack is 40 HP per second, and then 2 stacks of restoration give you 65 HP per second. So, yeah, looks like we're trying to do our own little banner of war over here on Solar Titan. I don't think it's gonna hold up quite as well as the original, but we'll give it a shot. I'm very excited that Bungie really is kind of doubling down on close range / melee fantasies in PvE. They've touched on making your strict sleeves for hunters, of course. That kind of leans into a closer one. I mean, Stompies is aggressive enough if you were to try to use it with this upcoming change in PvE, where I think you'd be in the thick of things, trying to be airborne above enemies and stuff. And then, of course, we know all about what Titans are doing in the close range space, what they have been doing in the close range space for some time. So, yeah, if they pull this off, that's going to be really cool. I'm really excited for it. I've definitely got a nice roll of Karnstein sitting in my vault. Haven't had a ton of reasons to run it, especially on Solar Warlock, so this will be nice to finally get a good reason. And melee kills and finishers, that's pretty easy. Cure and restoration, you get both. That's going to be really nice for being up close. I think that's a worthwhile trade-off here. Just do want to shout out a few synergies with Solar 3.0. On the restoration front, you've got Ember of Empyrean, where solar kills extend restoration and also radiant, but that won't apply in this case by about 4 seconds per kill, up to 12 seconds, and you cannot exceed that 12-second duration. Ember of Solace restoration lasts 50% longer. That's going to be a must-have, of course, if you do want to run this seriously. On the finisher side, you do have Void, Echoes of Cessation, and Obscurity, right? There's no requirement for you being on a solar subclass here, although there are certainly a lot of reasons to be on the solar subclass and then take advantage of our solar verbs, Cure and Restoration. But you could run Void and still get Cure and Restoration, but Echoes of Cessation, Finisher Final Blows create a burst of void damage. It causes nearby combatants to become volatile. Killing the volatile enemies then spawns a Void Breach. You have the Echo of Obscurity, where finishers grant 5 seconds of invisibility, and that also stacks with the Echo of Persistence, which makes your invisibility last a little bit longer here. So that could be a really interesting play. Do some void melee builds there, go invisible after getting that finisher, kind of reposition yourself to start dealing more damage so that you can have a finisher kill on another combatant to keep the gameplay loop going. That might be a lot of fun. On the arc side of thing, you do have the Spark of Volts, where performing a finisher grants amplification. Not as juicy of a proposition as going invisible or making nearby enemies volatile on a finisher blow for Void, or just all the fun things that come with Solar Warlock 3.0. So I'm not sure if I'm feeling really enticed by that, but yeah, I think this will be really fun. Again, want to try it out with Glaive first. I think that's probably the best way to get into that close range mindset. You've got the shield to get some a lot of DR if you do find yourself kind of out of position as you're trying to play a little bit more aggressively, get closer to where enemies spawn in. But just getting the kill, restoring 50 HP, not 50 HP. I'm looking at the old thing, 60 HP, and then get that at least 40 HP per stack at base. On top of that is going to be huge here. Definitely want to recommend perks like Swashbuckler. 1-2 punch is going to be huge. Again, I think this will be probably really great with shotguns. First and foremost, shotguns just have a lot of great options. I was talking about getting an Adept Swordbreaker earlier from Crota's End. That's got a great origin trait that's, works around that. I'm loath to admit it, but another great origin trait is the one that shows up on Brigand's Law from our plunder weapons here. I can't remember what the name of that one is, but it is melee based. There was also a Stasis Slug shotgun that came out with that season as well. That might be another excellent option there if you want to lean into that. But yeah, I mean, it's going to be fun with glaives, definitely going to be fun with shotguns. We've got some great solar shotguns. We've got some great solar glaives here. I'm trying to think if any of them I know they get incandescent. That's not really a great option for either one of those weapon archetypes. But again, If you just want to think about your matching your element for finisher or artifact mod, not finisher, fragment or artifact mod synergies, because those are things that frequently show up on the artifact as matching your weapons to your equipped subclass. It might be a good idea to start looking at that stuff now, but I'll try it out. I'll give my thoughts, of course, next season when this hits. Now, we, of course, last thing here before we actually get to our Festival of the Lost Weapons, want to talk about what are we hoping is not been announced yet, but might be coming with our Season 23 armor adjustments. I'll pass you back to Court here. What are you hoping the Hunters get reworked here in the final season going into the final shape?
Maybe obviously, I've got 5 listed here, but I don't anticipate all of them being touched up. Maybe not next season, but definitely, or hopefully, I should say, by final shape or during that year. Blight Ranger, obviously, one of the most egregious example of it's great on paper, but in game it's not. We saw they folded the effects of Foe Tracer into Knucklehead Radar. Same example could be presented here for Blight Ranger. I suggested Raiju's Harness. Just give Blight Ranger's effects into Raiju's Harness, because that's all about using your super, your Arc Staff, and then blocking, which is the same thing with Blight Ranger. And then just give Blight Ranger a new design. Not too sure what it could be. I suppose Hunters don't have many examples of you do something, say like an Arc Surge build. Titans have pretty much all the, barring Strand, Titans have exotics that give you Surge for all the elements. So Hunters could maybe use with this one. Sealed Ahamkara Grasps, which it does have potential. It has a very unique design in terms of if you just make any melee hit, it refreshes all your ammo and all your weapons, and there's I think it's 7-second cooldown. But that's pretty much it. It doesn't really do anything else. Let me have a look at what. Yeah, so on melee hit, refills equipped weapon, and if it's on a powered melee kill, so your base melee kill is just refills your equipped weapon. On powered melee kill, it refills all your weapons. It does also grant some mobility, jump height, and some AE for 5.5 seconds, and it's a 7-second cooldown. So I suggest maybe a heavy-handed, like just put some melee synergy into there. It's got its utility in more kind of specific scenarios with the whole, you could pair it with, on stasis, you can pair it with Whisper of Impetus, which is melee's refresh. So if you can get that doubled up a little bit, use it while the cooldown's on with your shuriken with Whisper of Impetus. You can play into the whole auto-reloading build aspect, but I think it could do with a little bit more help just to use it in kind of middling basic content. Next up is one of the last super exotics is Guizhon Vest. It's an exotic in this game. It's all about Spectral Blades, which is, I just feel like it still needs a little bit of buff. Spectral Blades, they could do the whole Surge business here again, just like with what they did with Titans, with the Eternal Warrior thing. So, yeah, that's my suggestion. I don't know what else they could do with Guizhon Vest, because it's, again, Spectral Blades just not that great at the moment. Bombardiers, it works currently. It's got synergy with all your elements, but it's got kind of non-functionality with the stasis and void effects. It's supposed to slow and it's supposed to suppress, but it's not quite doing those effects. It doesn't synergize with either sandbox. The slow effect isn't a stasis slow, and the suppression effect isn't a void suppression effect. So kind of want to see a rework to follow the same synergy as Warlock's Chromatic Fire. And lastly, Gemini Jesters, which is one of my preferred exotics in the Crucible, because it removes everyone's radar, which is funny. Everyone complains about their radar being removed, so I'll keep using it. But yeah, maybe a more potent effect in PvE. I something like something brand new and unique, like you do the dodge ability, you disorient enemies, and they start attacking each other. Obviously, would have a little bit some restrictions. You wouldn't want to put this on a boss where the boss starts attacking its minions. Maybe champions attack minions for a couple of seconds, something like that. Something we haven't seen in the game. Kind of calls back to my desire to see more perks that change enemy combatants into friendlies for a little bit. So this is kind of same ballpark in terms of an exotic that does that. So that's my 5 suggestions. Maybe hope to see in the future. There's a couple more, but I don't want to kind of bog down this part. We'll maybe see them in the future. Pass you over to Saint for the Titans. What have you got in terms of what you'd like to see reworked?
Honestly, it's just down to 2 these days. Mask of the Quiet One is first up. It just does not offer enough of a benefit compared to pretty much any other exotic in the game, unfortunately. It is just only going to be granting small amounts of energy when you're damaged, and you get health on critical. You heal when you get a kill while at critical health. So there's better healing exotics and there's better neutral game exotics, and it just doesn't do either one of them particularly well, and it's been really left behind. And would love to see it just kind of double down on one of those facets, or both of them, or either one of them. Honestly, just generally needs a big increase in viability. Khepri's Horn is my second one. I think that Khepri's actually got a little bit of a buff a while back. It just is not enough. It really needs to do more damage. Or my other suggestion for Khepri's would be basically 50 Scorch stacks per wave, with the ability to ignite if you land the outgoing and returning wave, because you're still having to kind of get up close to an enemy, and then it really plays well into ignition, which like totally opens up like the other things that you can do in your class. And then you could do like a, consecration, like really heavily ignition focused, like fragment set, along with Khepri's Horn. Getting your class and melee ability to have like consistent ignites would be awesome.
We know.
Just how about you? Well, go ahead.
I was going to say, we know Mask is getting rework, because in fact you asked that particular question to Rodney when we had him on. So I'm hoping it's going to be for season 23. We don't know. Like, we know nothing, but I hope that's one of the exotics that's coming up, because that's, out of all the exotics, I think the three of us can agree that's, maybe Impetus will have a different thought in terms of another exotic that begins with A, but Mask definitely needs some serious help. It's such it wasn't great during year 1 when it came out, and it's still not great, and it's still an exotic that's got the same effects since that sandbox. So needs some good help.
All right, mine are all super related. Apotheosis is super related. I had to pause there, but it's a super exotic. I forgot about that. So Apotheosis Veil, Dawn Chorus, Skull of Dire Ahamkara. Goodness gracious, that thing's been around. It's just not good. Balador's Wrath Reavers, that's brand new and trash. And then Storm Dancer's Brace. I mean, these are all related to various supers that Warlocks have, and they need more. They just absolutely need more. I mean, looking at the changes coming to Celestial Nighthawk and Shards of Galanor makes me think that Storm Dancer's Brace might be on the table. It does have a refunding super energy mechanic already built in. Granted, neither Celestial nor Shards had that really. Well, Shards did, but not to the wide open extent that it will have come season 23. So yeah, just make these do either more of the effect that they currently have, or add on or rework it entirely. I mean, I don't have any reason to run any of these on my Warlock because I've got plenty of other great options. So Yeah, make some good changes, please, to our super related exotics. I think is kind of where all three of us are landing on this right now. I totally forgot about Guisan Vest. Guisan Vest to me, I think, is a little bit more egregious than Mask of the Quiet One. Now that I think about it, but hey, hopefully both of those get touched.
I hope so.
Yeah,
but I suppose we've seen the last couple of seasons, they are very much on that kind of path where they're trying to get all these exotics bumped up a little bit. Yeah, okay, like Saint, you mentioned the Kepri's Horn. It did get that effect with Scorch. I do agree with the point where I think if you can get that, the wave that goes out and then comes back in, that's an ignition. I think that's fair enough, at least in PvE. I think that would be a really good change if you can get that. Because, combatants aren't standing around, especially in kind of master and grandmaster content. They do move around. So getting that, even the first wave of solar energy is hard enough. I'm very hopeful for the changes. And obviously we'll talk about them more when we get more information.
All right, it's time to get our horror story on, our Jurassic Green, our Mashaber, and our Cosmic.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Let's break down Festival of the Lost Weapons for 2023. We've got 4 of them. These all have the origin trait Search Party, plus possibly a few other origin traits. The description for Search Party is this weapon is granted faster aim down sights speed and movement speed while aiming down sights when no allies are near. The technical details here: if you have no allies within 15 meters of yourself, you have a 2.5% reduced ADS movement speed penalty and a 0.85 times ADS animation duration multiplier. Sounds a lot like a PvP origin trait. I'm trying to think here. Yeah, I can't think of really any situations where that would be hugely relevant, especially on the weapons that we currently have this year for Festival of the Lost. It will certainly make a big difference in PvP for our sniper rifle. I don't even see really anything worthwhile here for like even our new heavy grenade launcher. But a good origin trait, just not for our side of the sandbox, I think is the best way to put it there. Let's get into our weapons here. I'll do Horror Story. This is this one's gone through a bit of a glow up here, a kind of surprising glow up. This is a Stasis Precision auto rifle firing at 450 RPM. The precision frame, of course, has an intrinsic passive minus 20% recoil yaw. That's a reduced horizontal recoil. Previously, this weapon was kinetic. It has changed elements. It is now stasis. It does, unfortunately, lose the intrinsic 10% buff to unshielded combatants that all kinetic weapons have, but it does have slightly better damage to all shields now that it is an elemental weapon. Granted, we still don't have any stasis shields, but that's a story for another time. This is our first of its kind. Here is a first stasis/strand precision frame AR. So very surprising all around. It does have another origin trait. It is a Nadir weapon. It has the Nadir focused origin trait. Sustained fire increases the accuracy and the range of this weapon. We still don't have the specific details for that known yet, but that's pretty good origin trait. I think I'll probably run that over Search Party. More range is always helpful regardless of whether or not you're doing PvE or PvP. We are going to be comparing this to 7th Seraph Carbine. That's a kinetic AR precision from Aspire the Watcher, and then a Firefright, which is kinetic. You can now acquire Firefright from Presage. That was originally a Season 17 weapon, and that one's also craftable. None of our Festival of the Lost weapons are craftable. Hopefully you guys knew that by now. That's been the case for all of our holiday-style weapons. But let's get into the stats here. Horror Story's got 57 range. That is lowest. Both the Carbine and Firefright are at 58, so it's a small margin, but still the lowest. Stability is at 40. That is the middle of the pack here. Firefright at 41. Handling 37. That is the lowest. Firefright is also at 41 for that. Reload, 41. That is joint lowest. Firefright leads at 44. Recoil direction is 73. That's middle. Carbine at the top at 74. Remember, recoil direction on precisions. Don't need to worry about that too much. It should be pretty straight up and down there. Not exceptional on the stat side of things. It's kind of, I think, pretty standard for most of our holiday weapons. They don't tend to be statistical outliers, although this does have some pretty juicy perks, though, to make up for that here. Looking at barrels and mags here, again, range stat's going to be the highest, being precision. Then you've got kind of stability, handling, and reload all right next to each other. You can, I would probably say go any direction here. If you want to prioritize range, go for it. I don't find precision ARs to be too hard to control, so I'm not leaning towards stability. At 40, again, I play on mouse and keyboard. Saint, real quick, do you find a 40 reload stability AR, or I mean, do you prioritize stability, I guess, on precision frame ARs? Do you kind of leave it where it is? What are your thoughts on that stat for controller players?
Yeah, I don't think it's super important for PvE, and there's some barrel and mag options that I could get that could kind of just add on some stats in the background where you don't even really need, you have fluted. I really want the plus 15 handling. I'm also getting plus 5 stability.
Right.
Or I go flared. I want to pump up the reload. Again, 15 reload. But hey, I'll take the extra plus 5 stability. So it's nice where I can get it in some points like this. But yeah, even recoil direction 73, stability around 40, it still doesn't feel that bad as a precision just because of the nature of the frame. It's really not that bad.
Gotcha. That makes a lot of sense. So for me, I'm looking at handling, reload, and range as my big perks to target here. I would probably do fluted. I might even go hammer forge. Again, I have to take what drops, but if I got to pick, I'd probably go fluted, small bore. Hammer forged would be my barrels of choice there. I don't really care about everything else. Again, a small bump to stability from small bore is fine with me, just as long as I'm getting range as well. On the magazine side, we have just steady and accurized rounds as our rounds picks, and then a bunch of different mag types here. I'd be fine with accurized. Definitely don't want steady rounds. That's actually hurting my range and then giving me too much stability, and then also tacking on some airborne effectiveness that I just do not care about. So accurized and then tac mag would probably be another great pick. Flared mag, well, again, if I really wanted to work on that reload speed pretty dramatically, I think that would be a great pick as well there. That's really what I'm targeting in the magazine column. Then we get to column 3 and column 4. So column 3, right off the rip here, we got a really interesting option. Elemental capacitor showing up here in column 3. Very rare still to this day, despite the fact that elemental capacitor has been around for quite a while. That does give you a bunch of different effects depending on what subclass you're on. If you wanted to run this stasis weapon on your stasis subclass, you were getting a 20 recoil direction and 5% reduced ADS movement speed penalty. Probably a little bit more in line for PvP. I think pairing elemental capacitor with the search party would be really nice there for a very snappy feeling weapon if you were going to use this on a stasis subclass. But if you wanted to run something else, I think some of the more notable ones, again, going off the stats that I want to prioritize, if I'm on solar, that gives me 50 reload speed. That would take me all the way up to 91, ignoring my barrels and mags. If I wanted to go on to arc, that gets me 50 handling. That would be quite snappy. That takes me up to 87, again, ignoring my barrels and mag choices there. Void gives me stability, definitely don't want that. Strand giving me airborne effectiveness, not interested in that. So always interesting to see elemental capacitor. Again, if you can line up your subclass choice with a weapon with that perk, especially when you compare it with a damage perk, I think you're really cooking with gas, or you can be cooking with gas here. You've got Discord in column 3. Again, the big interest, the big draw for PvE Discord is Final Blow's refund ammo when the perk is active. And in order to get the perk active, you need to get a Final Blow with another weapon. Very, very interesting, especially on special weapons. But on primary weapons, I don't really need to be worrying about refunding ammo because I've got infinite ammo. I would rather invest in a reload perk like Enlightened Action, where dealing damage improves my reload speed and my handling. I can stack that all the way up 5 times. Very, very helpful there. And then, moving further under over, hey, they're starting to put it in column 3. Love it. Love that. That's really great here. Just not feeling it just not feeling it. And the big reason why I'm not feeling it, we have Demolitionist in column 3. Love Demolitionist in column 3. That's going to be really great. Why is that going to be really great? Because in column 4, we've got Headstone. This is our second demo Headstone primary weapon. Actually, no, sorry, just general stasis weapon. Did have the Unending Tempest also drop this season. That's our Crucible SMG, Precision Frame SMG. That does get this perk combo, but it has a much larger perk pool. So things aren't looking great for folks who are fans of demo Headstone on primaries. You've got this one weapon that's around for 3 weeks out of the year, and then Unending Tempest with its massive 12 by 12 perk columns there, 3 and 4. So you either have to play a lot of Festival of the Lost or a lot of Crucible at the moment to go and get that combo. But that's what I'm chasing there. We've got some other great damage perks, though. Collective Action, Target Lock, Frenzy's really great. Adrenaline Junkie, you do have the Demo Adrenaline Junkie Wombo combo there. Demo Frenzy, of course, another outstanding perk combination there. A lot of great options for Horror Story. Again, even though it's not dominant statistically, it has a pretty stellar perk pool there. So this is one of the big ones. I think actually this is probably my number one chase out of the 4 weapons here. But Saint Court, what are you guys looking at here? What are you prioritizing? Are you even prioritizing Horror Story at all for your arsenals?
I think I would like to get a demo Headstone or a demo AJ roll. Adrenaline Junkie's also in column 4. Collective Action as well, if that lands. To be honest, any of these perks, outside of Vorpal and Cascade Point, Target Lock and Frenzy, I would like to pick those 2 as well. Cascade Point and Vorpal, I'm just not that interested in for a Vorpal weapon for a primary weapon. Yeah, it's 20%, but it's probably not going to be utilizing that. If I get under over in Vorpal weapon, it would be a tearaway against Bowery champions. Fine, because under over does affect those champ shields. If it's say, well, currently this season we have auto rifle barrier mod, but yeah, preferably demo Headstone, get that nice synergy. We don't know what the upcoming buffs to stasis are. We know that particular sandbox is going to get a little bit of kind of up for season 23. But yeah, Collective Action kind of is pulling me because stasis shards are pretty easy to spawn for at least for hunters, pretty easy to get them. I think Titans can spawn them pretty fast as well. For Warlocks, maybe not the best of times because you have to freeze a combatant if you've got that on. I think there's, to be honest, just better aspects to utilize instead of that one. So yeah, demo Headstone for me. And yeah, I think Nadir Focus is definitely the play here. It just kind of really keep up for because sustained fire, obviously this being an auto rifle, you're going to be sustaining fire and get that accuracy and range drop. Yeah, I want to focus on this. It's the next weapon that I'm particularly focusing, but yeah, Saint, you got any comments here?
I do really like Headstone. I also am interested in Enlighten Action Headstone because of the way that it just dealing damage is proccing Enlighten Action. Now, I don't know this for sure, but the general game like trait logic would dictate that damage done by Headstone would count as weapon hits, which would trigger Enlighten Action. So that's really going to give me a lot of stat bumps. Again, that's basically 10 handling and 10 reload speed for each hit. 1 stack per hit, stacking up to 5 times. So you could pretty easily get this thing up to 100 handling, 100 reload speed with demo, which is not quite the synergy of like utility that demo offers from Enlighten Action, kind of also triggering off of Headstone. But yeah, I would take either one of those, and then maybe demo Frenzy or demo AJ would be after that. But yeah, honestly, really, really focus on demo Headstone and Enlighten Action Headstone. I would take either one of those combos, and I'd probably agree that this is my most sought after weapon of this whole set. It's really just very solid trait set. It's solid, it's, pretty solid stat wise. When you kind of get its traits going here, and yeah, I don't know, one of only, I guess, 4 of Nadir Foundry weapons that have been in the game so far. Is this number 5? I know there's really still not very many at all, so that definitely adds on to it. We don't have the exact numbers on that origin trait yet, but definitely a valuable one, I feel like.
Absolutely.
All right, Court, you want to take a pulse rifle here?
Yeah, yes, Jurassic Green, or as some players have been calling it for, including the rest of the weapons, Jurassic Pink, because it's got a very, all of these weapons have a very pink paint job for this year. But yes, this is our solar rapid fire pulse rifle that is 540 RPM, 3 burst. And the intrinsic frame bonus here for rapid fires is when the magazine is empty, you get a 20% faster reload, or 0.8x reload duration multiplier. It can toggle between Search Party and Field Forged, so defeating targets or dealing damage gradually increases range, stability, handling, and reload speed. I think we've been a little bit tough on Field Tested for some of these weapons. I think we weren't quite understanding that Field Tested just works in the background all the time. Hits and kills, adds points, and you can get it all the way up to 20 range, 55 reload, but it just works passively in the background. You only lose your stacks if you die. That's basically Field Tested here. In terms of what we're kind of pairing this with, so last season we also had a rapid fire solar, and that was Outlast. Season 21, that was the Reckoning weapons. We didn't really talk about it. And this season, we're also going to pair it with Oversoul Edict, which is our Arc, a rapid fire, which is coming from Crota's End. Maybe a little bit of an unfair comparison with it being a raid weapon, but let's have a look at the stats here. So range is 27, so it's actually the joint lowest with Oversoul. Outlast actually has 30, if you'd believe it. It's probably the only the best stat here for Outlast. Stability's got 41, which is lowest. Oversoul at 47. Handling is 19, which is again lowest. Oversoul at 22. Reload is 27, which is middling compared to Oversoul at 34. And the recoil direction is a 50, which is middle, and Outlast has 60. So yeah, again, a little bit of an unfair comparison with Oversoul Edict, just with that being a little bit more of a stat monster, with it being a raid weapon, but just to, highlight the comparison between the two. It's kind of around the same ballpark as Outlast, though Jurassic Green far ranks it thanks to its eclectic perk pool here, which was refreshed for this year. We didn't even really give the Reckoning weapons a proper breakdown last season, just because of how poor their perk pools were. Just look at Outlast's. It's got, column 3, it's got Keep Away, it's got Stats for All, but in column 4, Outlast has nothing. It's got Snapshot Sights, it's got Opening Shot. It's the only damage perk it has is Kill Clip compared to Jurassic Green's 5. So yeah, it's completely a different league compared to Outlast. So much improvement. What has also been improved is the removal and the addition of new perks. We have in column 3, the removed perks were Air Assault, Steady Hands, and Tunnel Vision, and they've added in their place Heal Clip, Keep Away, and Loose Change. In column 4, they have removed Adaptive Munitions and Gut Shot Straight, and they have added in their place Collective Action and Headseeker. So over on the barrels and mags, I think we're just going to be pretty boring choice here. It's going to be Arrowhead, Break, and Accurize rounds. At least for me, that plus 30 recoil direction to bring it up to 80 really closes in. With this being a burst weapon as well, it's going to be a little bit more tricky just to keep those shots on target. Rapid fire pulses did a couple of seasons ago. They did get a little bit of a nerf in regards to just keeping those shots on target. So yeah, we want to tighten up the recoil as much. I'm obviously the big range stan when it comes to any weapon, so Accurize rounds is your play here. I'll kick us off with kind of recommended main perks here. Quite a few in column 3. Obviously, Perpetual Motion's another kind of workhorse. We were talking about Threat Detector earlier in the episode, but we really kind of love Perpetual Motion with a lot of weapons. That would bring up your stability up to 61, your handling to 49, reload speed with 47. Again, if you're pairing this with Arrowhead and Accurized. Heal Clip is here, which you could combine it. That's one of our kind of first set of weapons to have double synergy with your sandbox, because you've got incandescent in column 4. You also have collective action in column 4. So there's a lot of kind of pairings here. Keep away is here if you want to utilize that for really hyping up your range and your reload stats. So plus 10 range, plus 30 reload speed, and your cone growth accuracy is decreased by around about 5% if no enemies are within 15 meters. Subsistence as well in column 3 if you want to pair that, if you can really get those kills down, but I probably would go for something like perpetual motion. I'm really looking at heal clip. I want to get that kind of rolling with the synergy. Get incandescent, that is your solar synergy here, but if you can't get incandescent to drop, then I would suggest golden tricorn. We've got frenzy again, really solid perk. 15% increased damage, 100 handling, doesn't really care what your handling stat is at this point, and 100 reload speed for 7 seconds. And collective action, fire spikes are pretty easy to spawn if you're pairing that with your solar classes that spawn fire spikes through solar grenades. Go down that route of synergy as well. But to me, really, it's heal clip and incandescent is what I want to use for the pairing here. But to be honest, anything in column 4 is pretty a good shout. Impetus, you got any other kind of recommendations for Jurassic Green here?
I mean, heal clip frenzy for me. Frenzy giving me 100 reload speed will make getting that heal clip reload much faster. It gets me my health a lot faster. And also, it's cured to you and your nearby allies. So that's going to be really nice to any nearby allies getting their health a lot faster here. Without Frenzy, you're sitting at that 27 reload speed. That's going to be quite slow. You jump that all the way up to 100 once Frenzy procs. Frenzy procs pretty easily, almost too easily, really, when you're thinking about it. We don't get, you're also getting even tiny incremental amounts of reload speed from the field-tested origin trait on top of that. So, even if you find yourself in a position where you don't have Frenzy, you can at least select that origin trait to get some help if you want to go like Heal Clip Collective Action. But I think the easiest, the simplest one, Heal Clip Frenzy on a pulse rifle. It's a very popular champion archetype that can be very nice for finishing off minor adds in the in-game, using that weapon to stun, but mostly I'll be using it probably to kill minor adds. Reloading, getting that 60 HP is just going to be really great.
I think first of all, I'll say I'm totally with you that Heal Clip Frenzy it's got to be my go-to role for this. What I'm definitely looking for the reasons you outlined there. Just the ability to keep that up so often is really nice. I think the only other trait in column 3 that I would consider is Keep Away. Keep Away is very easy to proc, and it does give 30 reload and 10 range. 10 range is fine. I'll definitely take the other range. Like Cord said, accurized rounds in the third column is great for an extra little bump there. But yeah, that extra 30 from Keep Away in the third column is going to be really nice if I am going for one of the other damage perks, Incandescent, Golden Tricorn in the fourth column. But if I'm going with Heal Clip, I'm probably going for Frenzy. That would definitely be a take. And yeah, the field tested, stat bumps may take a long time to get rolling, but I mean, if you're able to stay alive for a decent amount of time in a GM, I don't think it's crazy that you could get up to field tested times 3, which I think is landing like 300 bullets around there. It's a lot of bullets, but it is possible that you could get up to field tested times 3 at that point, which is honestly like a 10 range and 20 reload speed. So not nothing. So
it's actually one of the reasons why I mentioned incandescent, because that will pair with field tested, because it's based on hits as well. If you can, obviously kills rewards the best amount, especially on higher tier enemies. If you can get those kind of mini bosses, it's more going to be your rank and file and your elite based enemies that you're going to get the most amount of perks points here for field tested. I was looking at On Your Mark, which is the hunter solar aspect. If you can get that up to times 3, you get plus 60 handling, plus 60 reload speed, 6-0, and you also get 7% reload duration multiplier. So it does, if you get field tested 2, which is +6 range, +10 reload speeds, it goes almost to 100. It's 97 reload speeds, but obviously if you can keep pairing it with field tested, then you'll breach that 100 pretty fast. So yeah, that's kind of why I was maybe kind of going down that route. I don't dispute that Frenzy is absolutely king when it comes to just giving you free stats for not really doing a lot of things. So just take that into consideration. My fellow solar hunters, incandescent pairs with field tested. Maybe takes a little bit of setup, takes a little bit of time. If you do die, you'll lose the stacks of field tested. But let's take that into consideration.
All right, let's move on to our only special weapon of the set, making a return for, I believe it's second year this year. We were talking about the Macabre, a.k.a. the Meshaber, a.k.a. the Mechabri. This is an arc aggressive sniper rifle, 72 RPM. No real frame bonuses of note here. We take a look at some competitors in the slot. We've got Albruna D, which is another arc from Gambit. That's season 19, and that's a Hake weapon. And then we have a Luna Regula 3, which is a Vanguard weapon from this season, which is a solar high impact. So kind of comparing it with some very recent competitors. Obviously, there are some much older ones, aggressive sniper rifles that we can compare this to. Not all of those are really dropping right now, are very easily obtainable. So looking at something like Albruna, I feel like it's a really good comparison for this guy. Our range is going to be 74, which is highest. 28 stability, joint highest with Albruna. Handling is 26, again, joint highest with Albruna. The reload is 31, which loses to Albruna by 1 point. And the recoil direction is 77, which is kind of in the middle. Luna Regolith 3 is up at 80. This weapon doesn't really have a lot of, crazy stats. Some good stats, I would say, for your general sniper rifle here. Nothing insane. One thing I will say that is very unique about this sniper rifle is that thanks to Search Party, it has the potential to be the fastest aim down snipes speed, fastest ADS speed of any aggressive sniper rifle out there, because Search Party is a 0.5 times ADS animation duration scaler. We've talked about this before, but scalers are always incredibly potent. And when you crank up the handling a little bit on this weapon, and then you add in, snapshot and search party, its aim down sight speed is incredibly low. I believe it's like below 0.2 seconds or maybe 0.21 seconds, which is just obscenely fast and gonna beat out pretty much most other sniper rifles in the game, especially aggressives, which are not known for their handling. That's not super impressive or important for our side of the sandbox, but anything that makes a weapon like this stand out, I feel like is worth noting. When we look at our main traits, in column 3, we have lost fragile focus, perpetual motion, no distractions. And then we gained eddy current, demolitionist, and keep away. In column 4, we lost
moving
swashbuckler.
Target. It's moving target is
the missing one. A moving target, and then Adrenaline Junkie, Discord, and High Ground have all been added in. So, honestly, I would say not the worst update. I'll just start off with eddy current and just say again that we really hope that eddy current gets buffed. A change we had recommended in the past is basically while you're amplified, it gives you the bonus rather than just while you're sprinting or just we're sprinting, because it's just not really practical, especially with a sniper rifle like this. It just does not make much sense. So eddy current, not a great trait, could be better, but demo and keep away are definitely interesting picks here, especially with demo being on a sniper rifle, giving that 20%. Keep away again, 30 reload speed is pretty nice, maybe for a final column pick here. I don't know. Court, if you were going to use this weapon in PvE, what would you be going for here?
I'm honestly not really sure here because, Again, snipers aren't in a great spot at the moment. We know they're getting a buff in the future, but it really depends where aggressives land. I think it's maybe not the best, really, at the moment. When you've got something like rapid fires, which naturally have larger reserves anyway. And like, to be honest, there's like to call out some anti-synergy or non-synergy. Volt Shot is in column 4, but in column 3 you've got 3 perks which will not work. Sorry, 4 perks that will not work with it. So auto loading holster doesn't proc Volt Shot. Triple tap doesn't. Clown cartridge does. Well, sorry, it does, but then you apply Volt Shot. Or jolt through Volt Shot after a clown cartridge reload, which is an explicit reload. But then you can't reload again. Once you're overfilled your magazine, you can't reload again until you get it back down to the base magazine. So it's just such a sort of non-synergistic pairing. And then demo, when you throw your grenade, you can reload your weapon. But again, that doesn't proc Volt Shot. Volt Shot is one of those that you need to do a explicit reload, a manual reload, a hunter's gambler's dodge, marksman's dodge, or through the hunter exotic that escapes me. It's the
the chest, right?
Yeah.
Dragon's Shadow,
thank you.
I was about to say Wraith Metal Mail. No, that's that is the trait.
Yes, the trait. Yes,
not what it's called.
It's been a hot minute since I've used that for PvP. But anyway, so yeah, like 4 perks cannot synergize with Volt Shot, and one's just such a like non-synergy anyway. Clown cartridge and Volt Shot. So, like, I have a Volt Shot. I can't remember what the third column from last year that I managed to get, but it's just not something I'm going to use Volt Shot here. So in terms of other perks that I would probably look at, Vorpal's here, you get 15%, it's your classic for a sniper. And then I don't really know what else. Adrenaline Junkie, if you're building into grenade-based builds to get that 33.3%, it's just a bit... out of the 4 weapons that we're going to talk about for this episode for Festival of the Lost 2023, this is probably the most disappointing, which is a shame because aesthetically and the sound of Mershaber is one of the best. It's such a great design, it's such a great sound, but I'm not entirely too sure. Impetus, help me out here.
Dude, no, I got nothing. I don't want this weapon at all.
Yeah, it's a real shame. I think it was maybe better last year.
For PvP, I want it. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
Like if there's some PvP perk combos, I'll absolutely keep my eye out for it. But no, not for PvE. Not for PvE. Do I even have an arc sniper rifle in my vault? Let me look at that while you talk, Saint.
I was going to say, I think Keep Away and Volt Shot is probably your most synergistic. If I can crank my handling up a little bit with like Fluted, I get Flared Magwell for plus 15 reload, and then Keep Away is 30, and my reload's up to like 75. It's still not like a fast reload though, because just like the nature of the weapon, it's not going to be a quick reload. And then, like boss damage dealing, it's probably like triple tap with Vorpal or High Ground. High Ground's kind of weird. I'm a little more open to it these days, but it's kind of a strange one. Triple tap obviously being good for the ammo economy. Vorpal is just kind of constant. But even then, I'm not really using a high impact sniper for DPS, so to say. There are a couple of exceptions for high impact snipers in PvE. Deep Zone Grip, we're looking at you. But other than that, that's just not really a super viable archetype most of the time. Again, there's some exceptions here, but yeah, if I got to keep away Volt Shot, I'd probably hang on to that. But similar to like Impetus said, I'm looking for crucible rolls on this thing. I'm a big Hubble telescope user, so this thing having an even better potential for like fastest ADS speed in the category is got my interest peaked.
I think last year we did recommend Volt Shot, but that was on the basis of how Volt Shot worked back then. They collapsed.
Oh, you mean the multipliers
Yeah,
thing?
so they collapsed all the multipliers down into just one or maybe a couple, but it's definitely not as many multipliers as we had. The higher hitting weapons would have a much higher multiplier for volt shot, which is no longer the case. So that's kind of why I'm no longer really looking at volt shot on this weapon, because it's got the exact same multiplier as my SMG that applies volt shot. It's a real shame, just to kind of go down a small rabbit hole, it is a real shame that they did do that. Maybe something that they could rechange to maybe not as mad. Some of those multipliers were pretty crazy, but to collapse them all down was a bit of a shame, and it indirectly affected weapons like these, which did have quite a substantial multiplier. So that was my little comment there.
So I found an Albruna D in my inventory, and I still don't know why I held on to it, because I forgot. Aggressive frame sniper rifles, if you are going to use triple tap on them, you must have extended mag. Extended mag will take you up to 5 in the magazine, which allows for 2 procs of triple tap over the course of firing the weapon. And I have an Albruna with that exact combo. It's triple Vorpal with extended mag. I'm sitting at 11 reload speed after I run out of my 5 bullets here. But yeah, I mean, it's not... Aggressives are just not great because the ammo economy punishes them so much. Even with something that like triple tap, which is a great, arguably the best ammo economic perk that we have in the game for boss weapons, it still can't save aggressive frame sniper rifles. So I still can't recommend even aggressives at all. I think you're much better off with something like an adapt frame, or ideally a rapid fire frame, just because they have so many more bullets, and they very rarely get triple tap, but they don't need it because they can take advantage of so many other reload perks in column 3 because they just have more bullets to work with. So yeah, I'm going to delete my Albruna D, and then I'm just going to keep deleting my PvE rules of Mecha, because it's not it. It's not it. You're better off with an arc adaptive or an arc rapid fire sniper rifle just to fill that gap in your arsenal. Sad to say.
Yeah, not
All
ideal.
right. Not ideal at all. Speaking of not ideal, let's cover our last weapon here. Heavy grenade launchers, man. Wow. One day, right? Maybe sometime in the episodes, these guys will finally get to be meta for something. I don't know what, but a Cosmic is our final option here. This is a Void rapid fire heavy grenade launcher firing at 150 RPM. Rapid fire bonus here for heavy grenade launchers: when your magazine is empty, you get a 0.8 times reload duration multiplier, i.e. it reloads about 20% faster. This can toggle to the Nadir focus origin trait. And in regards to grenade launchers, you are just getting projectile velocity here. Sorry, I should say you're getting the accuracy and the range. For swords, it gets increased lunge distance, and then for heavy grenade launchers, it gets projectile velocity. Again, we don't have specifics on the projectile velocity part of that, but there will be some of that going on should you choose to use a Cosmic. We will be comparing this to the Swarm of the Raven. That is another Void option from Iron Banner. And then the Caraxus's Distress, which is a Strand rapid-fire grenade launcher from Root of Nightmare's Raid. Stat-wise, let's get into it. Blast radius of 20, that is the same across all three. Velocity 58, joint highest with Caraxus. Stability 23, middle of the road Carax up at 27. Handling 25, that is highest and tied with Carax. 26 reload, middle of the road cracks up at 28. So surprise, surprise, the raid weapon is really good statistically. No surprise there, of course, but not terrible. It definitely is better than Swarm of the Raven, which is, again, matches both the element and the archetype, and also drops from Iron Banner, which makes it a bit harder to focus for. So we'll see if the perks can really make you want to get up off your seat here and chase it. Moving on to our barrels and our magazines here. For rapid fires, you've got such great velocity, you don't really need to touch that stat. Stability on heavy grenade launchers, don't even bother about it. It's like focusing on stability for a rocket launcher. It's not going to change your gameplay, really, truly, not at all. You're looking at increasing your blast radius, although there's some damage perks that can help us with that. Increasing handling and reload speed, that's kind of where our barrels and mags come into here. So for me, quick launch is going to be nice here. I would even maybe go... Yeah, I mean, velocity is pretty high. You could afford to hurt it if you wanted to with something like confined launch, but quick launch giving that plus 10 to velocity, which you don't need. It takes it up to 68, but then also getting plus 15 to your handling, taking you all the way up to 40. That will be nice there. If you wanted to just kind of have all pluses, you could go smart drift control. That's plus 10 stability, plus 5 velocity, plus 15 recoil direction. Not that that matters at all. Plus 10 handling. Again, the stability recoil direction part, don't really need, but nice bump to handling, nice bump to velocity. That's a safe option there. Then you kind of get into the ones where it's like, all right, do I want to take a malice in some of my stats? So that's why I mentioned confined launch. That's plus 10 blast radius, which can be really helpful, but it is hurting velocity, which is a great stat, and then adding a bunch of stability, which isn't too great there. So you're kind of torn here. A lot of different options, but I think quick launch is probably the safest option, the best option here. When we get into our magazine, this is our different grenade options here. Spike grenades is present. That's kind of when in doubt, spike is going to be pretty great here. You do have high velocity as a close second, another great option there. And then you can kind of get into a debate with your drums. So augmented drum, that's going to add to your magazine there. That's going to be nice. You've also got alloy casing, which gives you a whopping plus 30 to your reload speed. Also hurts your stability, but again, you don't need to worry about stability on heavy grenade launchers there. So that's going to be nice. Again, that takes your reload speed all the way up to 56. That's just 2 behind the velocity there. That's plenty fast regardless of what kind of reload perks you're getting in Column 3, but it would also help a lot with any reload perks you're getting in Column 3. So those would be my options there. Probably spike grenades, maybe augmented drum, alloy casing, and then high velocity kind of as fallback issues here. Moving on to Column 3, enlightened action. That's going to be just a great all-around option there. Dealing damage, improving that reload speed and handling. Impulse amplifier, I think, sees a little bit more use in PvP, not so much in PvE, although an increase to the reload speed, it's just 20 reload speed, is nice. I don't think we need faster grenades here. Projectile velocity isn't a huge priority for dealing damage, but impulse amplifier isn't terrible. I think, I still prefer enlightened action so far. Surplus, no thank you. Loose change, no thank you. That's a lot of work there to get 50 reload speed for 4.5 seconds. I'm not really interested in that amount of setup for a stat bump. Clown cartridge, again, that could be helpful for damages depending on how many bullets you can fit into your magazine there. That could end up being quite nice. Field prep is going to be really great for giving that increased ammo reserves, and then you do get a little bit of a faster reload when you're crouching. That's 50 reload speed when you're crouched, which is nothing to sneeze at there, so that would take you all the way up to 76. Again, if you happen to get field prep with alloy casing, when you're crouched, that's going to be taking you all the way up to 100 reload speed. Would be quite nice for trying to chunk out a bunch of damage to bosses or mini bosses. If you want to go that route, that was again alloy casing and field prep. And then we have quick draw on the end, so I'm not sure that will be super relevant for PvE. Again, personally, I'm probably looking at enlightened action, clown cartridge, field prep as my options of choice. Moving over to column 4, we've got repulsor brace, so defeating a void debuff target grants an overshield. That's nice, and you would be defeating targets pretty easily with a heavy weapon, even a heavy grenade launcher. Not sure I would care for that in column 4 on a weapon that's mostly designed for dealing with some major tier kind of enemies, major tier to like champion tier enemies here. I'd probably want to wait and make sure those enemies were chunked down before busting this out if I was trying to consistently generate an overshield for myself. So again, a lot of effort for something that I don't really care about too much. I think repulsor brace would shine better on a special or a primary weapon if I really needed an overshield in my loadout. Cascade point, again, this is kind of where we get into, okay, what are we looking at for damage options? So final blows, sustained precision hits with another weapon, increasing this weapon's rate of fire. This would be great for burst damage. We'll be talking more about that when Rock joins our show, why that's so important, but Cascade point is an option for sure if you want to throw out a bunch of grenades all at once. deal a lot of damage in a very short amount of time. For example, you just stunned a champion in a Grandmaster Nightfall. You've only got a few seconds before it becomes unstunned and you need to waste it immediately. That's kind of the point where Cascade Point really shines. So that's an option for sure for damage. We've got Explosive Light, kind of everybody's default option to chase, picking up an overpowered, getting that blast radius and damage on the next projectile increased. That's the one that I'm chasing right now. It just, it works. It's very simple. It's been on so many other weapons, very popular rocket launcher perk pick. That's very much what I'm looking for right now. And then Wellspring, Collective Action, Destabilizing Rounds, High Ground, not feeling any of those personally. Collective Action, giving me a 20% increased damage for 7 seconds after an elemental pickup can be, again, a lot of work for a damage buff that I'd probably rather focus on getting from something like Explosive Light, or it increased my damage through something like Cascade Point, increasing my rate of fire. Not really feeling it. Destabilizing Rounds, more of an ad control option here. I think that would be a lot more popular on a machine gun or a sword. I'm not really seeing it on a heavy grenade launcher as an appealing pick here. High Ground, I guess Saint thinks that's a good perk all of a sudden. I don't remember reading about that, but maybe he can explain himself a little bit to the rest of us here. I don't see the value of that on this weapon. Again, it's 20% increased damage for a lot of work that isn't even possible in some arenas. So to me, that automatically kind of takes it out. But that's my option here. Like either Clown Cartridge, Field Prep, and then Explosive Light is really what I'd be chasing. I guess it would be Clown, Field Prep, and then either Cascade Point or Explosive Light would be kind of the roles that I'm chasing. But Saying, is there anything else that you might be chasing on the Cosmic Heavy Grenade Launcher, and why might you be chasing it?
You know, I really have been wanting to kill Crota from the balcony, as some people have suggested.
Okay.
And This is the perfect weapon for that. Little field prep high ground. You just plant your well up there on the shelf and just shoot at them. Nice, easy four face for you there. No problem. You know, no doubt about that. I think the explosive payload is like probably the most fun. I will also say though that if I was using this in PvP, I think Impulse Amplifier, you know, and honestly, I don't know, Wellspring or Collective Action destabilizing would be really fun. Like having Impulse destabilizing rounds is definitely a lot of fun for something like the Crucible. PvE wise, Wendigo and, you know, Regnant are just going to fare better. They're a little bit older. If I was coming back to the game and GL's got a buff next season, there's certainly a space, right, for something like Field Prep, Explosive Light, but I'm thinking that's about it for this GL right here.
Court, anything to add?
Not really. I mean, yeah, Imtus, you pretty much summed it up for me. I think maybe not related to this weapon, but once we get Rock on, definitely be an interesting episode to discuss, you know, the positioning of where heavy grenade launchers are in the sandbox and what really utility they have. Because like the three of us, we've kind of, unless it's an exotic grenade launcher, we're just not really that interested, to be honest. I'm not really a great grenade launcher at the best of times, but I just don't feel like they've got quite a great positioning in the sandbox compared to other heavy options. You know, rocket launchers are really great at the moment. Linears still have their place within specific scenarios. Again, another example we'll hopefully bring that up and just get a perspective from Rock. Machine guns are really good in ad clear situations. Swords are sort of making a soft comeback as well with the reworks, but heavy grenade launchers are just in limbo. I just don't really see much utility with this weapon when this year I can craft Regnant, which has explosive life. It's got more synergy in column 3. It's got more options in column 4 that are more kind of my cup of tea. But if you want something that is a little bit more fun, go down to destabilizing rounds, especially if you're a Void Hunter playing that with Gerfalcons. That's my option here, but yeah, I don't have much else to say here. It's unfortunate the last two weapons here are kind of a bit of a downer. I think Mishaber's definitely the more egregious example of it's a bit kind of redundant now, but yeah, that's my thoughts.
Regnant just blows this thing out of the water. I mean, it gets Envious Assassin, which again is craftable, so you can enhance that Envious Assassin, and then you have a choice between Cascade Point or Explosive Light, both of which those can be enhanced. And then you get the Noble Deeds Origin trait, which is actually really great as well. Yeah, or Destabilizing Rounds if you want to go that route. I mean, yeah, that is tough. It is a different frame. It's adaptive, but again, adaptives have better base stats, and that there's nothing that's terribly wrong. It's just there's nothing that's really great. But that's a much better starting point than a rapid fire where velocity is really great, and then everything else is quite low. Yeah, so if you have Season of the Defiance, go get Regnant is really what we're trying to tell you.
Well, this being a rapid fire, it does have deeper ammo reserves. I don't have the numbers in front of me because I mostly do it on rocket launchers when it comes to ammo reserves and the inventory size stat. But again, this is why we will be bringing this up when it comes to grenade launchers, heavy grenade launchers, specifically rapid fire frames, when we do our chat with Rock, just to kind of really get a overview of where they are. But right now, I just don't see much utility. And yeah, like you said, I'd just craft Regnant, which you can get right now if you're kind of brand new to the game. It's Season 20's that seasonal weapon. Season of Defiance. So if you have that season, get out there and get that crafted. Pretty easy to get that to drop. I think that's my recommendation when it comes to a Cosmic, is use a different weapon.
Yeah.
A tough look for a grenade launcher here.
Could be nicer, for sure.
Yeah. And last thing I'll say about it is it's kind of odd because usually on like event weapons like this, we're at least seeing something that's like unique trait combos or bringing new things to the table because they're like limited time type of weapons, and they typically have like something bigger to offer, which I think is honestly why it's so strange to see a weapon like this that seemingly just does not offer that much. But I don't know, who knows? Maybe next year, Cosmic. Maybe next year. All right, that will wrap up episode 83 of PvE. Thanks for listening in, and may the RNG be with you if you're going to be out there farming Festival of the Lost, Haunted Lost Sectors, etc. for the next few weeks. I want to thank our audio engineer, Autodidaktos, for helping us sound our best each and every episode, despite the amount of yelling that our cats and neighbors do in the background. Until next time, my name is Sink Beer. You can find me by that name on social media or hanging out over in the Destiny Massive Breakdowns Discord. Impetus, where can our listeners find you?
My name is Impetus. You can find me yelling at my neighbors as they drive past my house in their motorcycle, or in Destiny, or in Discord by that name. Court, where can our listeners find you?
Yeah, you can find me in various social sites as Court Projects, on the Discord as Court Projects as well. You can find my infographics and spreadsheets, amongst other applications and spreadsheets to enhance your Destiny experience, over on the Destiny Spreadsheets link tree and the Destiny Massive Breakdowns website. All right, that's all we've got for this episode. We'll see you in the next one.